Okay, so let's dive into a book that has been absolutely everywhere lately. Kristen Hanna's The Women. It's one of those stories that grabs you right from the start, throwing you into the heart of the Vietnam War. But you quickly realize, the real battle, the one that truly defines our hero, starts long after she comes home.
And really, this one sentence says it all, doesn't it? It's the entire emotional core of the novel, right there. This tells you right away we're not just talking about the war over there, we're talking about the deeply personal, often silent war that begins the moment a veteran steps back on home soil. And that, right there, is the heart of The Women. It's so much more than just a novel. It's this powerful, unflinching look at a piece of history we rarely hear about. The stories of the female nurses who served, who saw it all, and then had to fight these invisible battles when they returned. So, what kind of story are we getting into here? Well, it's historical fiction. That means Kristen Hanna takes this incredibly well-researched, historically accurate backdrop of the Vietnam era and uses it to tell a fictional but deeply, deeply personal story. So we get to experience this huge, chaotic time in history, not like we're reading a textbook, but through the eyes and heart of one person.
And that person at the center of everything is Frances "Frankie" McGrath. Her story isn't just a quick snapshot of the war. Oh no, it's this epic journey that stretches over decades. We follow our transformation from a pretty sheltered, naive girl into a war-hardened veteran. And then we see what comes after.
Let's really walk through this incredible journey. It kicks off in 1965. Frankie is young, idealistic, and she's been raised to believe that heroes are men. So to be part of that, she joins the Army Nurse Corps to follow her brother to Vietnam. Fast forward to 68, and she is in the thick of it. I mean, facing just unimaginable horrors every single day in a field hospital, but also forming these powerful, life-saving bonds with her fellow nurses. But then, 1970 hits. She comes home, and there are no parades, there's no hero's welcome. There are protesters. There's a country that just wants to forget her and the war ever existed. By 1975, she hits absolute rock bottom. She's struggling, she knows something is wrong, she seeks help for what we now call PTSD, and is literally told, women didn't go to combat, just dismissed. And that rejection sends her spiraling. But, and this is so important, her story doesn't end there. By 1982, she finds a path to recovery and a brand new purpose, to become a voice for all the other forgotten women of that war.
Frankie's story is the kind that just sticks with you, you know? So what is it about this novel that's hitting such a nerve with so many people? Let's break down some of its biggest strengths.
First off, it's that totally immersive character journey. You're with Frankie for decades, through the highest highs and the lowest lows. You really feel like you live that life alongside her. But the book's real power, I think, comes from the history it shines a light on. Most stories we hear about Vietnam are centered on the male soldiers. This book completely shifts the camera, giving us this fresh, raw perspective on things like PTSD and what it means to serve your country only to be told your service didn't count. And that's exactly why it's such a goldmine for book clubs. The discussions you can have about patriotism, trauma, friendship, resilience, they're endless. And obviously, it's worked. The book has been a massive bestseller, with critics and readers all singing its praises.
All right, but to give you the full, honest picture, we do need to talk about a few things you should probably know before you dive in. Because a book this powerful, well, it isn't necessarily for everyone or for every moment in your life. And the number one thing to be aware of is that this is an intensely emotional and, at times, very graphic read. A lot of the book's power comes from its raw, unflinching honesty about the realities of war, and that honesty carries some serious emotional weight. So it's really important to go into this prepared. The book doesn't shy away from vivid descriptions of war trauma. We're talking serious injury, death, the chaos of a MASH unit. It also goes deep into the struggles with PTSD and addiction, which could definitely be a trigger for some readers. It's also good to know that this is, first and foremost, an emotional drama. It's not a detached, analytical military history. And finally, Kristen Hanna has a very dramatic, emotional writing style. A lot of people find it incredibly powerful, but for others, it might feel a little too melodramatic. It's all about personal taste. Okay, so with all of that on the table, how do you decide if The Women is the right book for you right now? Let's try to make that decision a little easier. So here's the bottom line. This book is probably a perfect fit for you if you love those big, sweeping, emotional historical fiction novels and stories about incredible resilience. But on the flip side, you might want to put it on the maybe later list if you're particularly sensitive to graphic depictions of trauma, or if you're really looking for a non-fiction, fact-based account. And it's also worth a little self-check-in. If you're going through a tough time personally right now, the emotional weight of this book might just be a lot to carry.
When you close that final page, the novel really leaves you with this one powerful, undeniable message. It reclaims a piece of forgotten history to prove, with so much heart and conviction, that heroism has absolutely no gender.
And that really leaves us with one last question to chew on. The Women gives a voice to one group of forgotten heroes, but it can't help but make you wonder, whose stories are still out there just waiting to be told?